Here we are once again. Welcome to our Ultimate Guide series. And today we're taking a look at the Ultimate Guide to Cartoons, or sometimes they're called now animated shows. Have you ever wondered what's up with that delineation? I think it's made up because some grown-ups don't want to admit that they still watch cartoons. It's savvier to say that I'm watching an animated series or an animated movie than it is just to say, no, I'm just chilling out watching cartoons. Nothing wrong with that, but we're going to call it animated or adult animation because it's more digestible that way, isn't it? So I have, as always, several lists that are going to really get to us. Probably. Everything's probably going to be out of order, but I'm hoping that at the very least that there are a few animated gems in here or cartoons that, require us to check them out and see why they're included on the list. We're going to do our best. So, as always, I want to start the discussion just by saying, hey, good morning, Denny Geek. How you doing, my friend? I just want to say that, cartoons are a staple, I think, of so many of our lives. If you grew up in the 70s, 80s, 90s, probably even the 2000s, I think animation and cartoons played a role, whether it was on Saturday morning or after school. And nowadays, I think a lot of people find their cartoons on streaming platforms and get to binge it all at once. What makes a good cartoon? I think it's the same thing that makes a movie great or any other show great. Good characters, a compelling narrative or story, circumstances, and just memorable. And in the sake of animation, because usually the episode orders get to be really high, especially after first run syndication hit in the early 80s with shows like Inspector Gadget and He-Man, a concept that is repeatable and renewable so that it doesn't get worn out and you don't have to go back to the same well too many times. Hey, HR, how's it going? First time here. Thanks for joining, my friend. Nice to see you chime in at any time that you want. We're about a half hour early from when we normally stream. So, hey, if you're here, you can check it out. Awesome. If you're checking this out on the replay, I love you just as much. So let's get to the first list, okay? This is Animaniacs Gather. There you go, Silver Knight Kyle. Good to see you, my friend. Man, it's been a bit. Howdy, John. How are you? So this is from IGN, their top 100 animated series. There's a lot of promise in this graphic. Let's just see how we go. Art Love Life podcast. Let's go. Let's do it. All right. Here we go. Hold your breath. Okay, Josie and the Pussycats. I believe this is number 100, Filmation. What do you guys think about this? This is really unique because this is one of the first black characters that they put in the show as a cartoon. There wasn't anybody before this, from what I understand. Fat Albert was in 69, like a primetime one-off special before it became a series in 72. And this was Saturday morning's first black character, which I think is pretty great, right? You guys probably know the hit song Sugar Sugar, co-written by Canadian Andy Kim. Was part of the Archie shows, and this, of course, was a spin-off. Now, a lot different than the Riverdale universe that we see today, as imagined by the CW. So, Josie and the Pussycats, 100, good teen musical fare that we typically got in the late 60s and through the 70s in response to the overly violent superhero shows that so many people complained about. So, the answer was, let's do the teen gang mystery or music thing and showcase high school life. Okay, so right away, we're going to have some problems already. The fact that Mask is 99 and not closer to the top 30. What is going on? I'm not ready to get this upset this early on in the list. Are you? Because Mask is one of the best cartoon shows out there, even though there was a weird pivot between the first and second season where the first season of 65 episodes is very much good guys versus bad guys with a geopolitical kind of thread where a lot of shows took place all around the world, and they would highlight the new environments that they're in and bring in local mythology and lore. Season 2 kind of continued that, but it should be so much higher. I want to say top 20. Again, it might be biased, but I guarantee the running gag in this show is, Well, Mask is better than that. So let's see what happens. This is just criminally rated low. It should be much closer to 1. Clerks the animated series. So here we go. Mask is better than Clerks the animated series. Like I don't even know what to say about that. Like I was excited to watch Clerks the animated series, but boy was I disappointed that it wasn't funnier. I mean, I know that it was kind of like catered to a broad mass market audience instead of like the ones that kind of watch Clerks and expected that kind of rapport, that dialogue, those themes. Just watered down, right? It's revisited in Chasing Amy. Do we want to sell out and do that or don't we? And well, some of the episodes are okay, but I just tell you, it just wasn't that great. Not in my opinion. Prove me wrong. I'm happy to be wrong. It just doesn't see that. So yes, Jay will lose his mind when he that. They had to sanitize Clerks for the cartoon. You're absolutely right. Mask should be much, much higher on this. Well, you mean Rock Me Gently, Andy Kim is Canadian? Yes, he is. And I actually met Andy Kim while filming the Mr. Dressup documentary. It's fantastic. The Smurfs. This is a classic show, based on the Peyo cartoon strips. I still think the Smurfs work. I still think that there's an audience for them. The series, like the recent movie series that are done in CG, are obviously super popular. The third one, where it's all just Smurfs and Gargamel doesn't become Hank Azaria as a human in New York, or Neil Patrick Harris, is the strongest one of the bunch. There's just a lot to mine about, being an individual and going against the grain or trying to find your place and identity. And there's a really nice blend for Smurfs about magic and mythology that, Gummy Bears, I thought really perfected. They really took that to the next level. But it's hard to find something to say about Smurfs. But it is easy to say that 97 is a weak ranking for this. So there we go. Star Trek, the animated series. Okay, well, again, I am glad it's on the list. It should be a little bit higher, I think, because this is one of the few live action TV shows turned animated, resuscitated, rebooted effort that I thought worked out really well, and it even won an Emmy. And that's because it obviously carried all the voiceover talent and had a lot of the writers come over. Of course, I know a little bit about the Star Trek animated series and the Josie the Pussycat stuff because of Faking Filmation, our upcoming film, which will finally almost totally be in the can this January. Cross your fingers on that one. And then we can kind of polish it up and get it out to all our amazing backers out there. So yeah, 96. Here we go. Full Metal Alchemist, 95. Now, this is a show that I don't know at all, but I do know it has a massive following. And I do know anytime I look for anything animated or cartoon on Netflix, this seems to pop up. Does anybody in the chat have any thoughts on Full Metal Alchemist that I can share? Because again, I feel it's like criminally way too low for a show that seems to have a massive following. I believe it's based on a manga. Everything I hear about it is fantastic. I just don't have a connection point to it. So chime in if you've got something to say about Full Metal Alchemist. I'm happy to regurgitate for it. The Boondocks, again, not another one that I know at all. It's still airing on Cartoon Network. It's based on a comic strip of the same name by African-American cartoonist Aaron McGruder. The Boondocks takes a sharp satirical look at American society with an emphasis on Black culture and race relations, from hip-hop and movies to icons like Martin Luther King Jr. and Oprah Winfrey. So again, it's just not something that I watched. I didn't have access to Cartoon Network, and I still don't. So this is why I've missed out on these two shows. Darkwing Duck. This is not a show I missed out on. This is right in my prime afternoon viewing. 93. This is the first Disney afternoon cartoon show that we're seeing on here. Of course, DuckTales, Rescue Rangers, Gummy Bears, Tailspin. Maybe Bonkers makes the list, but I feel like this is, again, 93. I get it slapsticky. It wasn't like as good as DuckTales, I don't think. It wasn't as good as Rescue Rangers, but it was good enough show that it was within the same breath. And I think Gummy Bears is probably the best of all of them, but they're going to rank DuckTales higher because DuckTales is DuckTales. Who doesn't love DuckTales? But Darkwing, I'd like to see this more in the 60s or 70s than at 93. Again, this is a crime to put it at 93. So there better be a lot of things that are ranked ahead of it that make sense. Again, I would put Mask ahead of this. So why was Mask 99? Doesn't make sense. Rugrats. Okay, it's hard to deny the impact of Rugrats. And look at the air dates here: 91 to 94 and 96 to 2004. Big episode count. I know a ton of people that just love this show, and I think similarly animated Wild Strawberries. It's that weird 90s kind of style of animation that is very indicative of not solid line drawing, and it's still traditional, but like this just weird. So it's a weird surrealist vibe that's almost a little bit grotesque. It's not super pleasing to the stuff that I grew up, which is very superhero and comic books, solid line defined material. But I don't know. Boondock should be top 25. Happy to see you chime in on that. Darkwing Duck is way too low. I absolutely agree. Top 10 for Darkwing is legendary. I get it. Scooby-Doo number 1. That's great. We didn't do our predictions, so thanks for chiming in on that. I think the top shows have got to be the Flintstones, Looney Tunes, Animaniacs probably. Scooby-Doo will be up there. I think Ninja Turtles, He-Man. Yeah, I think that's kind of the top 5. Scooby-Doo, Looney Tunes, Ninja Turtles, He-Man, Animaniacs. Flintstones? Did I say that? Well, yeah. Rugrats was a cultural phenomenon. I agree. It's not something that I ever really got into, but that's just because of my age gap, and these are kind of more toddler preschool kids. The stories didn't appeal to me. That's not to say that age group can appeal to you. Just this version of this show did not. Harvey Birdman, attorney at law. Again, Mask is better. This is good. I would like to at least see this switch places with Mask. If you're going to insult one of the best 80s written series, put it up here. Oh, Real Ghostbusters has got to be top 10 as well, right? Maybe top 5. I know a few people that would think that. But Harvey Birdman, again, funny, ran for 7 years. Like it says here, on the success of Space Ghost, coast to coast. So we'll see Space Ghost up here. Here's an offbeat series. Sarcasm, again, something made for the grown-ups, I would say, by and large. Afro Samurai, again, a massive IP. Not one that I've been able to take in, but I've only heard amazingly good things by it. And my fear of jumping in on this 100% stems from the fact that it's been on so long, and it's just an overwhelming universe to try to understand and consume. It's probably good enough that it eases you in and really kind of pulls you along, like all good content that you can binge and immerse yourself in. But there is so much to watch and so much to do, with understanding a series, because it's never just read the books or watch the show. You go down the rabbit hole. So here we go. HR is relevant or correctly saying Bruce Timm, Paul Dini, top 10. Almost everything they did, but Batman animated series for sure should be in the top list. X-Men, of course, as well. Maybe Spider-Man, the Fox Kids shows. Those should be there too. We'll see how much we're robbed on that, sir. On that stuff. Star Wars: The Clone Wars, again, 89. This feels low. This feels like a show. Again, when I see these lists, I always want to find out, okay, what is number 50? What should go in the middle there? And Star Wars: The Clone Wars feels like this should be right in the middle, because it did a lot of great work to bring Star Wars back to great storytelling, and not so much about the explosions and the theatrical event experience. As they mentioned here, Paul Dini was a writer on it. Dave Filoni, who of course is now running the live action TV side of Star Wars, was on it. But this kind of righted the course and made up for a lot of wrongs that a lot of the prequels did for so many fans. And this became a really great series to watch. And it's still going on like 14 years later. Of course, now continuing on Disney Plus from Cartoon Network. I got to see it through DVD releases, and I've been catching up on it through Disney Plus now. So I would not put it at 89. I would definitely put it closer to 50. Anybody got some thoughts on that one? Here we go. I loved it when I was younger. I haven't watched it here. Afro Samurai was fun for me. Silver Knight Kyle is saying Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, top 5 from my childhood, did not age well. You're absolutely right. It has not aged well, but Firestorm and Iceman, I always thought that was a cool, a three-hander, if you will. Good stuff there. Real Ghostbusters, Futurama, and the Venture Brothers in my top 10. Okay. I would agree with Clone Wars at the 50-ish mark. I always like to say, here's where I think it is plus or minus 3, right? We've got to give it a little bit of leeway to go back and forth. Okay. So here we go. Woody Woodpecker, 88. So is Walter Lance's obnoxious, off-the-wall Woodpecker too low? I feel like Legacy alone should put it in the top 50, because they reused so much of those gags, and it never felt super stale. And that whole cast of Lance cartoon characters, I thought were pretty fantastic. Right up there with Looney Tunes. Not as good as Looney Tunes, but right up there. So I think 88 is not fair. Just saying. Frisky Dingo. Please tell me somebody that has watched this one, because I don't know it at all. Brought to you from the minds of C-Lab 2021. I can tell you that much. I don't know this at all. One of the best animated shows of all time? Nay. More like one of the most astonishingly awesome creations ever conceived by our miserable race. I'm guessing there's an in-joke there. I just don't know what's going on. Woody should be top 25. I agree. Simpsons. Oh, yeah. Simpsons and South Park. These are other big shows. Like, again, much like our look at 90s movies, we're going to have such a hard time fitting all of these in. So good luck to all of us and that our brains don't explode. Old heads like me are still loving Spider-Man 67. There's probably one of the ones I grew up with. Spider-Man 67 and Hercules from the American Picture Company in 62. I believe is the American Picture Company. Those were my two like first cartoon shows that I loved as a kid. Moving on. Astro Boy. Oh, here's another one that I absolutely loved as a kid. Tell me this wasn't amazing. I was so excited for the CG reboot as well that wasn't Nick Cage in that as well. This was like, the inspiration for stuff like Mega Man. I just thought it was a good show. A good solid show. Top 50 for sure. Agree, disagree. I haven't seen the reboot they're saying down here in 2009. There was an Americanized CG incarnation of Astro Boy. A feature film. Oh, okay, so that's the one I was talking about. 2003 remake of the TV series didn't make waves in the US. Okay, so yeah, I haven't seen the reboot. Top 50 for sure for Astro Boy. Anybody agree? Let me know. Sound off. Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. Again, a show that I know had a lot of fun and had a lot of audiences, and one of those staples. And I don't know a lot of people that were diehard fans of it, but it was just kind of like one of those shows that was in like the cartoon block. Like it was part of like a bigger group of shows that people were talking about and enjoying. Even here it says it takes a SpongeBob-ish formula, which is really the Pink Panther-ish formula, having your main character systematically strip others of their sanity. What's not to love about that? If you loved Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, please sound off. Even had a video game. Okay, so here's the first Fox Kids show, Spider-Man 94 series. 84? Top 50? I'm not sure. I really love this Spider-Man series. Be in my top 30 for sure. I think a fair placement would probably be 50-ish. It's right around Clone Wars in terms of a great series. It faithfully adapted a lot of different comic book stories and arcs, doing what they could here. Maybe 55 is more fair. For me, top 30, hands down. Absolutely love this show. Are you a fan of this Spidey series? And we just sound off. Herc, Spidey, and Rocket Robin Hood were Canadian TV staples. Absolutely. Rocket Robin Hood. You nailed it, man. Absolutely. What a great show that was. Teen Titans. Okay, this is the anime one, the original one that came out in 2003, 2006, which of course has been looped in with the current Cartoon Network. Is this still Cartoon Network? Cartoon Network kind of slapsticky, almost Thundercats Go style. This is Bruce Timm's animated take, of course. I thought it was a bit too adult. It didn't really feel like the other Bruce Timm stuff. It didn't have those arcs and those stories that I loved as much, but it has its fan base, and who better than to do a superhero show than someone like Bruce Timm. Fat Albert and the Cosby Kids. So in other words, I think 83 is a fine ranking. I don't know if it should be included, but I'm fine with where that is. Fat Albert and the Cosby Kids at 82. Again, when we talk about legacy and the importance of shows, Fat Albert and the Cosby Kids should be in the top 50 of all time. Yes, there's a really weird twist on it now when looking back at history because of Bill Cosby's involvement, but he is only one person involved in an entire team or a village that made this show happen. So you can't take away the good work of so many people and the impact that this had on Black communities, or as they said, urban culture, which I don't necessarily love that label at all. Tailspin. Here's the second Disney afternoon show that we talked about. This is better than Darkwing Duck. Okay, like seriously, I'm not sure about that. Gonna jump back to chat. That Spider-Man series was cool because it would have these long multi-part episodes. That's right, syndicated storytelling. Before X-Men, they didn't think syndicated storytelling would work, that everything had to be resolved within an episode, and X-Men proved them wrong. And Spider-Man followed that up, where you'd have 5-10 episodes strung together with recurring cliffhangers that you just had to watch. It's great comic book telling at all. Den of Geeks says, I love 94 Spidey, still holds up today, easily top 30. Okay, so I'm not out to lunch. Us urban, not so youth, still rock hard with Fat Albert. Okay, so I'm not out to lunch then. I think it's a great show. Top 50 for sure, right? Maybe top 30. I mean, they tackle some big issues that a lot of people just don't want to talk. I mean, they talk about suicide, they talk about addiction, they talk about killing and gang violence, and all through the lens of a show for kids, but it's addressed. Tailspin is fun, but I prefer Darkwing. You guys are on fire today. I absolutely agree with all of this. Definitely top 30 for Fat Albert. Okay, good. Thanks for chiming in. I appreciate the authority and the backup. Alvin and the Chipmunks, 80. I feel like this has got to be in the 50s, if not higher. This is one of those staple shows and one of these iconic legacies that just won't go away. We haven't even mentioned Transformers or G.I. Joe. Should those be in the top 10? Was Mask better than Transformers and G.I. Joe? Mask has been better than all this stuff, I got to tell you. Yeah, it has. So I still love the Chipmunks. I think the fact that they've been able to make a whole, movie franchise out of it is not surprising. They have a CG show where the animation is not great. It's the same storytelling and it works. There's just something about, these mischievous kids with hearts of gold, not trying to get into trouble, but just having trouble find them, all wrapped around in musical melodies. Just something about this show that works. And hey, it's those Christmas specials, right? Christmas with the Chipmunks. You can't hate it. Look at this. Time to Riot. Chipmunks at 80. Impossible. I love that this list is drunk. C-Lab 2021. Again, not something that I know. I didn't have access to Adult Swim or Cartoon Network, but it's one that gets mentioned a lot. Chime in if you've got C-Lab 2021 memories. DBZ. Okay, so this is where a lot of people are going to riot because obviously Dragon Ball Z has a huge following, and the fact that it's 78. I feel, again, legacy and the following that this has and all the iterations and spin-offs and new versions of the show, even though I'm not a fan, you have to kind of just bow down to the importance of this and put it in the top 50, maybe top 20 for some people. I'm fine with it. I could justify that, I think. I don't even have to be a fan to get it. Is 78 for DBZ too low on the list? It needs to be higher, closer to 1, right? I love it. Denny Geek says, love those boys, referring to Alvin and the Chipmunks. Something about Alvin relates to me. I'd say top 40 for the Chipmunks. They're the boys of rock and roll. Okay, here we go. Moving on. Johnny Quest at 77. Okay, no, this is easily top 30. There are real life stakes where people die in Johnny Quest. This paved the way for everything that you love about serialized storytelling. This is G.I. Joe. This is Transformers. This is definitely Mask. I mean, every episode, it feels like the Quest family goes to a different place, much like every episode of Mask feels like it's taking place in a different geographical area. And it was just, in your face. I don't really like the new Johnny Quest stuff as much, but that original run, 26 episodes, is just so good. Obviously not, looking through the lens of today. There's some stereotype issues, of course. Sadly, it makes it harder to showcase to kids, but the show does so much so well that this deserves to be top 30, top 20. You can make an argument for top 5 just because of what it handled and where it went and what it did. So what about Robotech? Is that going to make the list? I don't know. Where will that fall? I don't know. Voltron is here at 76. We know that. Where do you guys think about Voltron? I really like the Netflix reboot that came out, 10 years ago? That was solid. As much as I love giant robots and forming stuff together, Voltron was something that never really clung to me, but I get it. I feel like 76 is a good spot for this. Again, that's a personal bias. I'm happy to be swayed, but Voltron, obviously a big fan base. Go Lion, as it was known outside of America. Yeah, let me know. Sound off. Dr. Katz, professional therapist. Okay, I don't know anything about this. I know of it, but I'll go back to my staple line. Mask is better. So is Darkwing Duck. So is Voltron. So is Clone Wars. If they put Robotech over Voltron, I'm going to send a sternly worded letter to the editor. You know what? IGN probably never gets any complaints with any of their articles. Their gamer heavy fan base is probably so polite that it's just like a dream working there as an editor. So OG Johnny Quest was great. I agree. So do you guys know Dr. Katz, professional therapist? I don't. Underdog. Okay, this is a good show. 74? No, I don't think so. Maybe that's a good score. But where I get upset is that we've seen so many great cartoons before it, and as well as this is an interesting take, a friendly superhero comedy kind of thing. No, I'm good. I think it needs to be lower than some of the other stuff, like closer to 100. Mobile Suit Gundam Wing. Again, very much that mech Robotech Voltron warrior giant robot piloting kind of stuff. Massive Gundam. But like in the 90s, I thought like everything was Gundam, and it was just like shoved in our faces. It was like anything that was like successful in Japanese culture, like Power Rangers and Sailor Moon and Gundam, suddenly got thrown into American faces. Like, hey, if this works, you'll love this. Try this on for side. Do you love this? Was this a big deal to you? Sound off. Moving on, Dexter's Laboratory. Okay, so this is one, despite not having Cartoon Network, that I did find. It was airing in Canada. And I think this is an unsung show that a lot of people don't mention. I would put this in the 50s. Hardcore. It is such a good show. Funny, wacky, off the wall, easy to revisit, holds up today. There's not a lot of bad things to say about it. It has that, Fairly Odd Parents kind of look to it. It works. It works really well. Johnny Bravo, above Dexter's Laboratory, above Mask. I like Johnny Bravo, but I just don't think it's that good. 71 might be a good score, but we like so many more things that come before it. So, yeah, I don't think so. Pokemon, this was not even a show I considered, again, because not something that I watched, but how do you put Pokemon at 70? Feel that's got to be like a top 50 show. Is it better than DBZ? You almost got to separate like the pure anime stuff out of this, and I don't know why. It's probably just my lack of knowledge, so I can't accurately judge where it should go. But I don't think 70 is fair for Pokemon. I really don't. Mighty Mouse. So Mighty Mouse is better than Mask. No, it is not. You're drunk. This Wish.com list is screwing us over again. It's good, but I would put this in the 90s. I would swap this with Mask, for example. Put this at 99. Wasn't quite good. Popeye, again, classical. So this was, this is not really an animated cartoon series. This is just theatrical shorts that were strung together, much like Mighty Mouse, because of the era that it came with. So I almost want to disqualify it from the list because it's not the OG. Pink Panther show. Great work by Fritz Freleng. This is one I loved as a kid. Right? Again, we talked about, what makes a good cartoon show, a concept that you can keep going back to the well and not feel like it's getting dry, where you just have a lot of material and a good cast of characters as well. Dexter is a great show that still cracks me up. Gundam Style. Yep, absolutely. You guys like the Pink Panther? Where did that fit for you? That felt like very Looney Tunes' slapstick-ish Hanna-Barbera stuff, again, done by Fritz Freleng, by Pat Freleng, based on the movies, but not really based on the movies, though, either. I don't know. I liked it. I don't like the reboot, though. Not at all. Tom and Jerry. Again, so this was based off theatrical shorts that they've then, stripped together for the sake of show. So I kind of want to eliminate it, but it is a great kind of cat and mouse story. An industry lingo way of saying, opposites against each other. But I feel like if we're going to include theatrical shorts, this has got to be higher because this is one of the classics. Spawn at 65. HBO took a chance on Spawn. I'd never seen cartoon so visually and stylistically appealing as this. I mean, there are elements from Batman the Animated Series that come into this that get pre-baked, of course, the silhouette of the dark, the shadows, but just the flow, the motion and everything, and the fact that HBO was doing an animated series. This was really kind of one of those big pillars of adult animation. Yes, we had The Simpsons, and yes, South Park was coming out right around this time as well. But this was like another, hey, we can have an adult superhero story as well. It doesn't have to be these comedies or these satires. So 65 for Spawn, it's probably a little high in my book, but it is an important point in animation. I don't know. Spawn is top 20, if not top 10 for me. We're seeing here. Pickled Pink episode of Pink Panther is one of the funniest cartoons I've ever seen. I love that. Pink Panther has the best cartoon intros. I love that you guys know so many of these as well as me. I feel like I'm not stranded alone. D&D. Okay, so this is one of those Saturday morning cartoons that I want to love more than I do. And I think 64 is rated way too high. Again, Mask is better than this. So what is this going on this wish.com list? I don't know that it even deserves to be on the list. And that's not saying that I don't like it, but they didn't even have like a proper ending for the series. And it's at 64. It's fun. It was just this weird take on Dungeons and Dragons, the tabletop game that sort of translated but didn't. I like it for what it is, but it's not better than so many of the things that we've seen on our list already. You know, Smurfs criminally underrated. I agree. I 100% agree. Huckleberry Hound. So now we're starting to get into some of the Hanna-Barbera stuff. I don't think we've seen much. And Huckleberry Hound is one of the favorite Hanna-Barbera shows. Of course, I think of Scooby-Doo, Jetsons, Flintstones. And Huckleberry Hound would be right up there too. Then Yogi Bear, Snaggletooth, Magilla Gorilla, Laugh Olympics, and Wacky Races would be other ones that I like as well. So we'll see if any of those land anywhere else. Danger Mouse, again, not something that I think is great and should be here. I know it had a bit of a long run, almost a decade, but no. Count Duckula? No. You see, this is just strange. Okay, now we're just getting into strange inclusions. This is like the hipster, like drunk talk where you're trying to like one up somebody with your trivia. Where they go, well, what would you put at 62? Well, I would put Huckleberry Hound. Oh, yeah. Well, what about Duckula? Oh, yeah. Duckula's a 61. That's a way better place for it. It's just like, I don't think so. I don't think Duckula belongs in this. The Rescue Rangers. Okay, so this is the third entry from Disney Afternoon. We've seen Darkwing in the 90s. We've seen Tailspin in the 70s. Now we see Chippendale Rescue Rangers at 60. For me, you know, it's in the 30s and 40s, but it's, you know, this is not me. I'm not drunk enough to appreciate this list. This is great. I wonder where they're going to put DuckTales. I really wonder where that's going to go now. Yeah, I'm just sad. Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends is better than Mask at 59, and Darkwing and Rescue Rangers. Hey, I love me some Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, but I don't think that this is accurately placed. Tell me I'm not drunk. He-Man and the Masters of the Universe at 58. I thought top 10. I thought maybe top 5. What do you guys think of He-Man at 58? Nope. Way too low. It needs to be higher. Like, I mean, obviously, Invader Zim is better than He-Man. You're drunk. Venture Brothers better than He-Man. Turtles at 55. So we have He-Man at 58 and Turtles at 55. Does anybody else need to like seriously go get a whiskey? Because the fact that we've seen two huge staples of animation, two massive, colossal cartoons, like that alliteration, colossal cartoons at 58 and 55, not even in the top 50. Ridiculous. Inspector Gadget at 50. So Inspector Gadget, as much as I love, is better than Turtles and He-Man. And this list, it's impression. No, I think He-Man, Turtles, top 10. Inspector Gadget, top 30. Yeah, it's that good. It really is. Freakazoid, I love it, but this is probably a good ranking for Freakazoid, right? You're going to get Freakazoid, Pinky and the Brain, Animaniacs, Tiny Toons, that whole stable. And it gets better and better. Freakazoid I really liked because it was crazy, but, you know, it's probably the least exciting of all those Warner Brother tunes. Galaxy High, don't know it at all. It ran for 1 year, I guess. It was developed by Chris Columbus. And according to this list, better than Turtles, He-Man, and Mask. I just cannot believe this. Go home, list. You're drunk. How is TMNT 55? We must be forgetting about 45 great cartoons. Matu is 10. What is this insane? Okay, so well, I'm with the right people. Death Note at 51. Again, this is one of those anime series that ran on Cartoon Network. I can't talk about it. Super Friends. Okay, this is great. You know, this helped really push the Superpowers toy line, and they have this at the dividing mark at 50. So there's an argument to be made that this could be 50, but I really see this as like in the 70s because it wasn't all that dynamic. It was good storytelling, so it should be on the list, but it should not be as high as 50. Thundercats at 49. So if you're playing the home game, that means one of the biggest properties of the 80s, Thundercats, is better than He-Man, it's better than Turtles, it's better than Mask. And we know that that is not the case. Whatever you feel about Thundercats compared to those other series we mentioned, I feel Thundercats should probably be in the 30s, but those other ones are top 10. Is this too high or is this too low for Thundercats? Duckman. I can't talk about it. Pinky and the Brain at 47. I feel like that's got to be higher than 47. I am not going to acknowledge Duckman being better than all of those other things. I give Freakazoid a solid 50s mark. Hanna-Barbera Show Junkie myself. Dastardly and Muttley and their Flying Machines from Hanna-Barbera is a special place in my heart. I found a VHS copy at a flea market when my kids were little. We watched it all the time. It's great. I love that Hanna-Barbera stuff. Pinky and the Brain at 47. Top 30. Sorry, it's that good. Jetsons at 46. Jetsons is a classic show, but it is exactly like the Flintstones. So we know the Flintstones is going to be ranked higher. And there was 2 runs of the Jetsons, right? There was 62, 63, and then it came back in the 80s, and then the Jetsons movie capped it off. So I don't know. The Jetsons is good. 46 feels about right. Gargoyles at 45. Okay, well, you know, it's technically part of Disney Afternoon, but kind of mature take thanks to the awesome Batman animated series. Disney felt they could go dark and compete with that. 45. This has got to be in the 30s or the 20s, right? This show is really good. Again, serialized storytelling, not over the top, but really well done and really delicate. A nice touch. Battle of the Planets at 44, known as Gatchaman among anime aficionados. Battle of the Planets holds a special nostalgic place in the hearts and minds of those 30 and older club. Sure, put it on the list. You know, go ahead and put it on your list, but do not put it above Turtles, Voltron, He-Man, Thundercats, and Mask, and Darkwing Duck, and Rescue Rangers, and every other great show, and Spider-Man the Animated Series. Samurai Jack at 43. Again, another fantastic show. I did catch it, and one of the reasons I caught it was Gennady Tartakovsky was responsible for Dexter's Laboratory, so I sought this out on DVD. And at one point, he was attached to direct a Dark Crystal sequel that never materialized, but he did work on Clone Wars material as well. I think this should be in the 50s or 60s, though. That's just where I am. Powerpuff Girls, massive series, especially for girls out there that really felt they didn't have superhero representation. 42 feels like a good mark for this show. Back to the chat. Samurai Jack is great. I'm getting real anxious to see top 10. Mighty Space Robot. Danny, my friend, I've been looking at your footage recently, and you make me laugh. AI randomly picked 100 cartoons in no particular order. You're not wrong. Maurice LaMarche, the brain from Canada, and Egon Spangler, right? Tiny Toon Adventures at 41. This is where it gets hard because it's like, okay, is 41 justifiable compared to everything that is coming up next? Is it better than everything that happened? I don't know. It's good, but I mean, it is a reboot. It is a spin. It is a different take. I'm not sure that it belongs here. Maybe it's a little bit better. Batman Beyond is not better than many of those shows that we've seen. It had a short run, and that's because I think the story dried up too much, and that is a huge knock that I have against it. I love Batman Beyond. I love that they tried to do a sequel to Batman the Animated Series, and it was fairly successful, and of course, finally closed with Justice League Unlimited in one of the final episodes there, but 40 is a bit high. I'd like to see this in the 50s or 60s. Aqua Teen Hunger Force. Again, a series that is still going on strong, not one I have ever watched. There's something about it that never appealed to me. Even this image that we're seeing here just doesn't do it for me. Again, why am I judging a book by its cover? I don't know. Probably because I have enough to watch. And when I see lists like this, it does get me excited to try it. But then I get so raged by this AI randomly generated list that I also get upset. No. Tiny Toons at 41. Someone was hitting the tequila before hitting their keyboard on that one. I love this. I love going back and forth to the chat and finding comments like that. Naruto at 38. Space Ghost Coast to Coast at 37. I don't have any comments on these because you know what I'm going to say. Mask is better. All that. Superman the Animated Series at 36. Great show. better than Turtles, He-Man, Mask, yada 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 yada. Don't know about that. Avatar: The Last Airbender, again, huge fan base. Sure, included on the list. It's just so drunk at this point. Robotech at 34. We were talking about Robotech earlier. Are we happy that Robotech is at 34? All those other series, I don't know. Let's just forget that they're ranked where they are. Is Robotech Robotuck like Friar Tuck, but Robotuck? Is Robotech earned? Has it earned a 34 rank? I like Old Man Bruce and Return of the Joker. That was sweet. Yeah, I got no problem with that. No Rambo, not yet. We'll see where AI randomly placed it. Moving on, let me know about your thoughts on Robotech at 34. I know a lot of big fans of it. I don't know that it's that much better. Okay, Schoolhouse Rock. Really? You're going to do Schoolhouse Rock at 33? This is just like preachy material that just because it ran for almost 30 years doesn't mean it was great. Like when kids can tell that they're being like talked down to and like edumacated, it's a worthy, noble effort, but this is not something that I can condone at 33. I just can't. You want to put it on the list 100 graded animated series, even though they are shorts, you go ahead and you do that. You put it on your list and you see if I care. But do not put it at 33 or I'm calling my friends and we're going to meet you at the bike racks after school. That's just what's going to happen. Nope. Robotech is overrated. Voltron, Transformers Z, and Gundam are all better than Robotech. Hey, that's fine. Denna Geek says Robotech is top 5 for me. The show actually dealt with death and war without talking down to us kids. Ulysses 31 is another one that we might be seeing soon. Liquid Television. What the crack is this? You American comrades to the south are gonna have to educate my brain on Liquid Television. I don't know what this is, so I don't know. But thinking about MTV, are we gonna see Beavis and Butthead and Daria and Ren and Stimpy? I don't know. Muppet Babies. Look. I love Muppets and everything Muppetified as much as the next person. But this list, it's got me going crazy, man. I don't want to see it at 31. Again, put it on your list, but put it in a justifiable, non-jello shot order. You had your pint, you had your chicken wings. I'm going to have a whiskey shot and loosen up a bit. Oh, it's a great idea if I do a jello shot too and put Muppet Babies at 31. You're drunk. Go back to work and sleep it off. This list is just at lunch. Spectacular Spider-Man. Again, it's a good Spider-Man show. How many Spider-Man shows do we need on the list? If they're all good, sure. But this is my least favorite. I even like Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends better than this. This is good, just not to where it needs to be. Okay? You're showing off for no reason. Same with Speed Racer. Put this in the 70s. Put it in the 80s. Put it in the 90s where it belongs. Home Movies at 28. Do I have fans of home movies in here? Ha! Muppet Babies was the bee's knees, but not 31 out of 100. I agree. Mighty Space Robot says, at this point, Challenge of the GoBots has a good chance for top 10. So does Filmation's Ghostbusters at this point. There's nothing wrong with that. RoboCop, that might happen as well. I mean, is Exo Squad going to be on the list? Is it? Let's find out. I don't know anything about home movies. I know of it. Again, the animation style seems flat and uninteresting. King of the Hill at 27. This is a solid show. Super funny. Again, one of those adult animation kind of things that makes you go, oh, yeah, this is good. I would put it up there with like Bob's Burgers as a great example of adult sitcom fare. Does it belong at 27 on the list? Does it belong this? No, it does not. It is great. We should be talking about it, but it should not be the thing that controls our conversation. The Critic. Okay, I love John Lovitz, and I love that it's a Simpsons spinoff that most people forget. But The Critic at drunk number 26. Who's buying your drinks at this point? Get a hold of yourself. Be a grown-up. How are you going to get home and explain this to your loved ones? This does not belong here. I am sorry. Robot Chicken. Okay, this is an interesting one. We're back to the chat. Simpsons should be number 1. Pardon my brain. Home Movies was classic. My wife and I named our first dog from that show. Well, John, that's totally cool. It's just not something I know about. Again, I didn't knock the show. It's just not something that I can justify on the list. I never watched it. Partly, it just didn't interest me. I'm glad you love it though. Sure. I love Matt Groening. The Critic is in a top 1,000 cartoon. That's fair. I wonder if Cops and Crooks, the toy line, fighting crime in a future time, is going to make it. It might. Robot Chicken, stop motion animated fair. So I feel like this is a different kind of animation, and I love it, and I think it's great. Put this at like 100, right? Just to kind of like tell us you're going to do something different without showing off. Is it funnier than all this other stuff? Well, no, I don't think it is. I think it's a great show, and I've spent many hours watching the episodes. But this is a good entry point to this list. That's that, okay? Scooby-Doo, where are you at 24? Now, I'm just going to guess that we're not going to see, 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo or all the other iterations of Scooby-Doo, like the Scooby-Doo Happy Hour and Scooby-Doo and Scrappy-Doo, that this is the only entry that we're going to see. But at 24, like, I'm glad that this is a top 30 entry from this, alcohol-fueled, angry animation list. But this is a top 10 show for so many reasons. It changed everything for animation, for cartoons, Saturday morning, and Hanna-Barbera, I think. So now we really get into it. Where are the 80s kids in the chat? Where are we? What's going on? I think you'd appreciate, Rob, for those 3 kids as they make their own movies. I don't like making movies. I do it because I have no other skills, John. I don't know how to do anything. I barely know how to get dressed in the morning without screwing up 2 or 3 times. Okay. Transformers at 23. So again, if we're talking 80s cartoons, this is better than Thundercats. Yeah. Better than Mask. Nah. Better than He-Man. Better than Turtles. Maybe. Nope. Can't do it. Can't do it at 23. Not when all those other shows are there. They're basically saying if maybe G.I. Joe's ahead of it. And are you going to say that G.I. Joe is better than Transformers? I don't think it is. I don't. Real Ghostbusters at 22. Criminal. Like, who's getting charged at this point? Whoever made this list is handcuffed in the back of a squad car, dictating to their digital assistant, probably Siri, who probably is just getting the numbers wrong at this point, because this is a top 10 show. It is so well written. It is so well executed from the source material, and encompasses so much mythology that you've got to love this. You gotta. 22 is just not fair of a fate for this. But what's with this weird thumbnail? Way too glossy. Don't get it. Again, Star Wars, the 2003 TV series, is apparently better than that. This is the Tartakovsky one, the Samurai Jack creator that I mentioned. No, this doesn't belong on the list. I love it, but it's just like, I don't get this. I don't get it. Oh, here we go. TF at 23 must be an homage to Michael Jordan as the greatest of all time. Otherwise, why 23? You bring up an interesting thing when you say Michael Jordan, because I'm guessing, was it Pro Stars? Remember that cartoon with Michael Jordan, Wayne Gretzky, and Bo Jackson? And they sometimes had cameo. Andre Agassi was in it too, I think. Yeah, sometimes they had cameos of other athletes. That's a top 10 one, right? So is Denver the Last Dinosaur, I'm sure. Here we go. Justice League Unlimited. This is great for the superhero stuff, 100%. I love Justice League Unlimited. I love that every episode featured one of those lesser-known DC characters. Does it belong on the list of top 100? Probably not, despite how much I love this. I think it's better than Super Friends. I think it's better than, Batman and Superman, the Filmation stuff. I don't know if it belongs on this list of 100. There it is, G.I. Joe at 19. And I should say that it looks like they're looping in both Real American Hero, the original Marvel stuff, and the Deke production by this, which are 2 different things. Is this the best 80s cartoon of the big brands? Because that's what they're suggesting. And that's a whole different argument. But does it belong at 19 or should it be higher? Top 10 maybe, right? DuckTales at 18. So we wondered where it was going to land. Woo! I'm drunk. It's going to be 18. No, not going to do that. It needs to be higher. Animaniacs, again, should be higher. What a funny show where there's so much adult humor. I don't know how they sneak it past the censors. It is just a phenomenal series. And we'll never see anything like that. And much like Tiny Toons was created in the vein of how come we don't have Looney Tunes cartoons today like we had growing up? This is really that. This stands on its own without having to mimic or, evolve a universe. And that's what I love so much about this. I haven't seen any of the reboot, but this original run was just dynamite. Oh, I thought they would put the mask here, like mask here again, but it's the Max. I have no idea what this is. And the fact that it's number 16 on a list of 100, I kind of think I'm a fairly educated guy. Why is this here? I hope there's a super fan that can just rip me a new one in the chat, but this should not be here. I'm not saying it shouldn't be on the list, but it should not be here. SpongeBob at 15. This is just a funny show. Super smart, well written. You pick all the things you want to say. It's great. I think it should be higher. And we're getting to the point where like, well, there's only so much space, Rob. Are you drunk? I wish I was drunk. That would make this list way more tolerable than it is. I got to take a break for a minute. Okay, going to the chat. Animaniacs is top 3 for me. Amazing cast and writing. 17, no, number 1 all day with Animaniacs. Animaniacs is second favorite cartoon after The Simpsons. I love that show. I have a full series on DVD. I only watched G.I. Joe because it came on right after Transformers. Pro Stars, The Forgotten Superheroes, The Real Ghostbusters was my jam. I love The Max, but come on. The Max was a really cool animation, but it wasn't a top 20 cartoon. It wasn't even on that long. Delusional list. And we got some education here. Max was an MTV show, 90s, and the ratings at best. You see, I love that I can be from Canada and you guys can be from where you're from, and you can inform me and fill in those gaps in a nice, friendly way where I'm not insulted or I don't feel angered because you're just trying to help me out. Now, when I go to this list, I feel all those things. I feel all those emotional problems. And frankly, I don't know how to take it anymore. Let's move on. Cowboy Bebop at 14 and X-Men at 13. I'm going to try to do these in pairs to speed up. Again, Cowboy Bebop, not something I'm familiar with. It's on Netflix now. They're doing a live action series, I think. Justify it on 14 if you can. X-Men, I'm going to put it in the top 10. It is maybe the best superhero show, right up there with Batman animated series. And I know a lot of people will pick Batman the animated series ahead of it, but I constantly go back and forth because of the syndicated storytelling, the serialized nature, and how well it adapted those comic book runs of some of the best superhero stories of all time. I'll give you guys a minute in the chat to chime in that while I go forward here. Ren and Stimpy at 12. Okay, top 30. Remember we talked about, is this going to be like an MTV thing? Top 30, maybe Ren and Stimpy, but not 12. No. Rocky and Bullwinkle. Again, this goes up with those classic Hanna-Barbera shows. It's good. And it has following like Walter Lantz and Woody Woodpecker, who was shoved down to 77. But it's just as good as those ones, right? And I don't think you can separate them all that much. They're kind of made of the same ilk. I don't think Rocky and Bullwinkle gets its due, especially Fractured Fairy Tales. As a kid, I loved how they turned those stories on their heads. And, I'm so informed as a writer because of that stuff. But not top 11. 40s is where I would put Rocky and Bullwinkle. As we get into top 10, Neon Genesis Evangelion. Tell me where we're going here. So, X-Men top 5. Silver Surfer, I liked it as well, except for the CG blend. So I'd probably, if I had to include it on the list, put it in the 80s. Getting smiley faces. Aeon Flux was the max, but better. X-Men was great. It was something I never missed an episode. Even if I had a soccer game, I recorded it on the TV show. So, guys, we're going in the top 10. This is where we're really going to need our meds to deal with the drunken idiot behind the article. And I'm sorry. Maybe there's a bunch of people compiling on this. Maybe this is AI. And I don't mean to offend anybody by calling you an idiot. I shouldn't name call. That's not me. That's not who I am. But I don't know how to explain this. So you're definitely drunk. You must be. The Flintstones at number 9. Okay, we've talked about this. It's got to be the biggest Hanna-Barbera thing. Of course, it's a parody on the Honeymooners. Nobody's going to dispute the landmark status of I was going to say The Simpsons, because of course we know what's coming up, right? The Flintstones at 9, though. Probably right. It feels like it's in the right area, at least for sure. Futurama at 8? No, it's just not the case. It's just not going there. It's just not a thing. We can't do number 8 for Futurama. I'm like getting upset trying to understand any of this. How to rile a Canadian. Make a list like this. Get some whiskey, Pretend you know something about cartoons and start writing the opposite way of logic. Family Guy at 7. Again, I'll put it in the top 20. Top 30 feels better to me, and I'm a fan of the show. When we're talking about best animated series of all time, I just don't know about that. The Tick. Okay, again, good show, but it doesn't belong to be here. Beavis and Butthead. I wondered about this. 5. Nope. South Park at 4. Top 10 for South Park, maybe. Top 20 for sure. Looney Tunes at 3. Again, are we saying syndicated theatrical shorts? It's a hard one. But 3. Batman the Animated Series at 2, which means The Simpsons has to be number 1. So Looney Tunes, Batman, The Simpsons. How does that feel to you guys? Like, I don't know how to contemplate and wrap my head around any of that garbage sauce. Look, Silver Knight Kyle agrees. The Tick, great, but top 25-ish. Maybe. What is going on here? Okay, let's compare it. I'm going to check out my other list to see what they are. Okay, I'm going to see if we can get to two of these in the next 5 minutes. So let me share the screen here. Here we go. Throw it up there. Let's see how we do here. Okay. So this is top 20 from comicbookreader.com, CBR.com. Adventure Time, not even mentioned on the other list. What's up with that? Great show as well at 20. Okay, but does it stand the test of time? Let's find out. Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends feels a bit high when there's so many great shows. BoJack Horseman, 18. Futurama at 17. Courage the Cowardly Dog. I feel like this is somebody that was born in 96 and decided to get drunk and write a list. Ren and Stimpy at 15. Samurai Jack at 14. Batman Beyond at 13. Rick and Morty at 12. Rick and Morty wasn't mentioned on the other list either. Family Guy at 11. Avatar The Last Airbender at 10. Justice League. They're just saying Justice League overall. Unlimited could be part of that. At 9. Batman the Animated Series at 8. Interesting. Pokemon at 7. So that's a huge jump up from the last one. Clone Wars cartoon. Huge jump. We said it should be at 50. South Park at 5. Close to the other one. Scooby-Doo at 4. Feels much better than in the 20s. Simpsons at 3. So what's 2 and 1? What is 2 and 1? Like, I'm going to pause and go to the chat. Like, what? I don't even know how to process what's going to be 2 and 1 on the second list. SpongeBob at 2. All right, let's get the pain over with. And Looney Tunes at 1. Okay, Looney Tunes, sure. We can see that. SpongeBob ahead of that stuff. I feel like I'm getting hurt now. Like, I feel like I'm hungover and I got a migraine trying to deal with all this stuff. Like, I know these are just lists, Rob. They're just lists. We know you didn't make them, and you're doing us a service by not allowing them to get away with this. Okay. Here's one from a reputable site. This reputable site is the top 35 list, and it's from a site called 137pm.com. You know, you go to that site all the time and check the news. So we're going to find out how well they got it. All right. This was updated in September. So Rick and Morty at 35. Okay. Smiling Friends, Adult Swim. Maybe it's good. Codename Kids Next Door. Transformers at 32. Invincible at 31. It is a good show. I did a live not too long ago, last week on Invincible, I think. I don't know if I'd put it at 31 of all-time shows. King of the Hill at 30. Looney Tunes at 29. I like what John says. We need a proper Rob top 100 of these. I would argue with myself if I did that. John says, okay, point on the doll where the list hurt you, Rob. It'd be a doll of Meldo. Apparently, we can get drunk, make lists that make no sense too. So Looney Tunes at 29, according to this list. Doug at 28. So Doug is better than Looney Tunes, as is Tom and Jerry. You know, I would have loved it for this to be just Tom and Jerry Kids or Flintstone Kids, right? Just to really rub it in. The Jetsons, the Flintstones at 25. Ren and Stimpy is better than all this. Legend of Korra is better than Looney Tunes, Jetsons, Flintstones, Transformers. Bob's Burgers is better than all that. And so is the regular show, of course, and Daria and Dexter's Laboratory, the Powerpuff Girls. Hey Arnold, of course, is better than Looney Tunes. Of course, it's better than Transformers. I haven't had a drop of alcohol in 4.5 years. You know, being a dad and being a guy who works a lot as a filmmaker, I just don't have the money. I don't have the time to slow down and nurse a hangover or be sluggish. I just don't have it. Nothing against anybody that wants to enjoy a drink. But when you have so many drinks that you create a list like this, you drive the people that are trying not to drink out of sobriety and back into the deep end. Not cool. South Park at 16. Again, I had said that. So maybe they're sobering up a bit. This is like, you know what? I'm probably good. I shouldn't have any more. It's like, we got a 2-for-1 special. And here's Futurama at 15 while they order 2 more drinks. Batman at 14. Wrong-o. The Clone Wars at 13. Rugrats at 12. Rugrats is better than Batman. Scooby-Doo at 11. Jimmy Neutron at 10. You know, when you have those friends that get like so angry, but that's just like who they are. And then you have those other friends that when they get mad, they just get really quiet. And you're like, uh-oh, we've gone too far. I'm going to get quiet now. Adventure Time at 9. Courage the Cowardly Dog at 8. Samurai Jack at 7. Family Guy at 6. Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, the 5th best animated series of all time, 5th best cartoon show of all time. Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. Simpsons barely is considered better than that. Teen Titans. Oh, yeah, there's no problem with this list. Let's go on to perfect the dissension into animated list hell. Avatar: The Last Airbender, and number 1, SpongeBob. You know, it's like they would get like one right, more or less, plus or minus 30. And then they would have 2 random. It's like they're shuffling a deck of cards with stuff on them, like show names, and they're just kind of throwing them around. It's like 52 pickup. Every now and then, because of random chance, something is going to fall into the right order, right? Danny. Danny says these lists must be done by polling people on their sites. No, these are written specifically by people that are not polled. These are written by actual people who get drunk as a hobby and call it their job. Then a geek. I don't drink and it's 9 a.m. here, but I feel like I need to drink to understand these lists, or an attempt at least. You know what? You're not wrong. And again, these people are doing their best with the information that they have, which clearly is not enough. Okay. Last thing I wanted to kind of show you guys, again, I like to end these ultimate guides with some sort of statistical analysis that takes all the emotion out of it, all the drunken buffoonery out of it, to try to ground something. So I have the list of highest growing media. I think it's by the reliable Wikipedia. So look at me and my source. It's evanrocks.fandom.com. So you know that this is going to be a great list. So hopefully it's accurate. And I wanted to show you guys specifically where some of these shows come from and how many like are based on existing IPs and where they kind of sit in relation to the rankings. Not that the rankings are consistent, logical, or will haunt me forever. Oh, that won't happen. So they have Naruto at the bottom here. And obviously that was high on the list as well. Crossfire, don't know it at all. Star Trek, we obviously saw the Filmation Star Trek in there. Nothing on Warcraft yet, nothing on Street Fighter. Ultraman didn't have a cartoon show. Superman, there was a few. Obviously, Dungeon Fighter Online, no Final Fantasy cartoon show. Dragon Quest, nothing either. No Frozen cartoon show. I'm surprised that there hasn't been an animated series for Frozen. I guess they're really cashing in on those films. Space Invaders, nothing for that. Sailor Moon, one of the first pure animated show and manga series. Of course, TMNT as well. Looney Tunes, Wii series of games. SpongeBob, Powerpuff Girls, Pac-Man, Avengers, Lion King, The Simpsons. Dora the Explorer, Kachikami, Neon Genesis Evangelion. So again, there's an anime when we're talking the highest grossing media franchises. Look how high it is. Power Rangers, Super Sentai, for those that don't know. Call of Duty, huge up there. Transformers, Peanuts. Well, Charlie Brown wasn't mentioned on that list at all. There are some serialized Charlie Brown stuff, and if they're going to say Tom and Jerry was grouped together, Looney Tunes, all that, Peanuts should be on there, even if it is just holiday specials. James Bond. Where was James Bond Jr.? Not needed. Middle Earth, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Toy Story, One Piece, Pikmin, Cars, Fist of the North Star. Surprised that didn't make the list somehow. Barbie, Dragon Ball, Gundam, Batman, Spider-Man, Wizarding World of Harry Potter, Star versus the Forces of Evil. That's a huge, huge show and a massive empire on here for not to be mentioned on any of those lists. Maybe it's just not listed anywhere yet. Marvel Cinematic Universe, Mario, Jump Comics, Disney Princesses, a Pan Man, Star Wars, Mickey Mouse and Friends, Winnie the Pooh, Hello Kitty, and Pokemon. So again, how does that relate to what we're saying? Look at all that top third of stuff. There's a strong animated component to it. And most of those things are ranked high on those lists when done properly. So Ultraman has a cartoon. I think Hanna-Barbera did it. Okay. I am happy to be wrong. I'm not claiming to be an expert, and this is why I don't do the list, but I like to look at the work of other people, and I like to consult the community that is you folks out there. Without you, there you are. Without you, I couldn't do this. I need your help to get me through. So thank you so much for joining us. I think tomorrow we're going to do something with toys. Don't know what it is yet. Hey, give me some ideas. We can talk about some toys, best 80s toys, 90s toys, the ultimate guide to that. Or maybe I'll just open some boxes of mail. I don't know yet. You can help me decide. Thanks so much for watching, guys. This has been the super easy to digest and highly agreeable ultimate guide to cartoons or animated series, if that makes you feel better. I appreciate you. Take care.